Shalom, everybody, and welcome back to Old Soul Torah. Today we're going to be talking about spiritual narcissism. What is it and how to avoid it, etc. We're going to be looking at one of the Torah stories in Sefer Bamidbar in the book of Numbers. It's the Parsha of Korach. Korach is the Torah's archetypal spiritual narcissist amongst many other archetypes that he plays. For example, instigator, Baal Machloket, always looking to create division and disharmony by hyper-focusing on what is wrong with leadership and trying to undermine authority of Moses and Aaron. Nevertheless, we're going to keep our focus today just on the spiritual narcissism part. It is a plague that is prevalent in today's society, both in traditional and non-traditional spiritual paths. And the place to really get an idea of how it works is right here in Parshat Korach. In the book of Numbers, Korach, a cousin of Moses and Aaron, gathers a broad coalition of disgruntled groups within the Israelite camp and presents himself as a genuine reformer who has the people's interests in mind. Today I would like to take a closer look at his flaw. He is a classic spiritual narcissist, and the following are ways in which this idea is supported. Personal ambition. Many commentators, such as Rashi, explain that Korach's rebellion was really being driven by his own personal ambition and jealousy. He wanted Aaron's position of high priest for himself and was dissatisfied with the roles assigned to him and his family compared with his cousins. That is why Moses yells at him, saying, HaShem has brought you and all your fellow Levites near himself, but now you are trying to get the priesthood too? It is against the Lord that you and all your followers have banded together. Who is Aaron that you should grumble against him? So here we see that Korach's rebellion is really motivated by a desire for power, his cousin's power, Aaron, and recognition, rather than genuine concern for the community. Next, manipulation of religious principles to serve selfish needs. Korach argued that the entire congregation was holy and questioned why Moses and Aaron should have special status. They came as a group to oppose Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You have gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. Why then do you set yourself above the Lord's assembly?" Here, Korach uses religious language to make his case. The whole community is holy, so why do you set yourselves above everyone else? And he uses the religious arguments to mask his own true motives for power. Moses and Aaron are the ones accused of craving power and exploiting their office to advance personal goals. Yet behind Korach's complaints is his own hunger for their status. Spiritual narcissists often use their position or teachings to manipulate, take advantage of, and exploit their community by appealing to the argument of social justice and inequality. Yet the irony is that they become a mirror image of what they are accusing others of doing, causing division and strife. Spiritual narcissists are known for causing problems in a community, particularly when they are ignored or not in the center of attention. By creating problems, they bring the focus back on themselves. And finally, spiritual narcissists suffer from spiritual entitlement, the idea that they deserve more than what they are getting. Much of the following class material today will be focused on this area, as it doesn't only pertain to Korach, but it's a trap anyone can easily fall into on the spiritual or religious path. Foremost, let us look and begin with a verse from Bereshit, from Genesis, the very beginning of the Torah. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And interesting that it says, let us make man in our image after our likeness. But then if you go to verse 27, and God created man in his image. That's it. What happened to likeness? So notice the intention is to create man in image and likeness, but when it actually happens and man is created, he's only created in image and likeness drops. So what exactly is the difference between image and likeness? Image is like the blueprint of your soul. It's the template. It's everything that is going to happen is already there in blueprint form. It just needs to be actualized. So the thing is like this, is we are born with image, but we have to earn our likeness. And it's no different than a seed and a tree and the difference between them. The seed has all the encoding and everything it needs to become a tree. It has the potential right there within its shells. But it has to give up seed life and transform and grow and develop before it can become a tree. But does the seed have the entitlement to be treated the same way a tree does, meaning to take on the tree status when it hasn't earned what it takes to be a tree? And that is where we say no. Once you understand that the seed, when the seed feels and believes it's entitled to a certain amount of status recognition and respect of the tree, that's a unhealthy form of entitlement. So what is Korach's argument? Is we're born holy. See, what Korach neglects is the second part of we are created in the divine image, and we have to live up and create that likeness of him, right? So what Korach conveniently manipulates you into thinking is, because you're created in the image of God, you're godly, you are God, you are divine. And who are you, Moses and Aaron, to put yourselves above everybody else? All of us are expressions of the divine being. All of us are manifestations of the one eternal creator. All of us are holy. All of us are beautiful. All of us are divine, as we often hear so many of the New Age community saying this. And my Christian friend also said, you're all saved. You're all saved already, right? So whether you're all godly, you're all divine, you're all saved. Wrong premise to begin with if you're looking for a healthy spiritual path. Now, contrast what Korach says with what Moshe says. So where Korach says you are all holy, look at the highlight here. You shall be holy. What's the difference? Korach, you're already holy, right? And entitled to being treated as holy. Moshe, no, you shall be holy. Future tense. How? Look at the beginning of the verse. This will be your fringe. These are talking about fringes of remembrance, tzitzit. You will see it and remember all of the Lord's commands to do them. Meaning it's a remembrance and it's a doingness. It is what you do that determines who you are. What choices you make, what actions you make, and how much you earn your potential and status in the world. And that's why we're all here, folks. In the Midrash, there's a famous passage that discusses Korach's challenge to Moshe regarding the mitzvah of tzitzit, or ritual fringes, that have some deeply philosophical symbolism relevant to our study. First, what are tzitzit? Tzitzit are ritual fringes or tassels worn by the Israelites on the four corners of their garments. To the left, you can see an ancient Egyptian tomb painting showing a non-Egyptian, most likely a Hebrew, because of the hair, the skin color, the beard, which Egyptians didn't wear, and the ritual tassels. Those tassels are still being worn today. And to the right, you will see one of many campaigns to raise money to buy Israeli soldiers tassels or tzitzit they can attach to their uniform when going out to war. Where does the mitzvah come from? In the book of Numbers it says, "Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to make tassels on the corner of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue thread, techelet, in the tassels of the corners. And you shall have the tassel that you may look upon it and remember and do all the commandments of the Lord." If you notice, the word techelet, sky blue color, is introduced in this scriptural verse. So what was Korach's challenge to Moshe? According to the Midrash, Korach, in attempting to undermine Moses' leadership and authority, staged a public confrontation, assembling 250 leaders of the community, all wearing garments entirely dyed with techelet, sky blue, and asks Moses whether such a garment still requires tzitzit, the ritual fringes, with a single techelet thread. Korach assumed that if an entire garment were techelet, it would not need merely one fringe of blue on the tassels. Moses responds that such a garment still requires tzitzit, including the single thread of techelet. Korach mocks his response, suggesting it is illogical that a garment fully dyed in techelet would still need the additional one single thread of the same color, thereby questioning the validity of Moses' teachings. So according to Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, what exactly is really going on here beneath the surface of the techelet challenge? To begin to understand, we have to decode the symbolic language. Techelet, which means sky blue, also means tachlit, which means ultimate purpose. It has the same exact Hebrew letters. So what's the connection? According to the Talmud, techelet resembles the sea resembles the heavens, and the heavens resemble the throne of glory. This chain of association brings a person to contemplate the divine and their higher purpose, the tachlit. Thus, Korach was challenging Moshe about what the ultimate purpose was, and trying to mock Moshe at the same time. When Korach brings out 250 leaders of the community, all wearing garments entirely dyed with techelet, this symbolizes the congregation is already holy, already having reached enlightenment or messianic consciousness, already in a post-messianic era that has lifted the original sin. And when Korach asks Moses whether such a garment still requires tzitzit with a single techelet thread, what is he really asking? A closer look at the mitzvah will help shed light and understanding. Wearing tzitzit, 7 of the strings are white, and the 8th one is techelet, sky blue. If 7 represents the complete physical creation, what is 8? The dimension higher than the physical creation. 8 is the metaphysical or above physical. It transcends physical reality, sometimes referred to as infinity, as in the mathematical sign, or the heavenly. That is why Jewish males enter the covenant on the 8th day with circumcision, or on the eight days of Hanukkah, which is seen as miraculous because the infinite or the heavenly light of creation transcends the laws of nature. So when Korach asks Moses whether such a garment still requires tzitzit with a single techelet thread, what is he really asking? Do we really need to bother ourselves with the physical world and its demands and responsibilities once we are already holy, already enlightened, already so close and intimate with God? And Moses says, of course. Why? Simple answer. The world is not yet complete. And as long as it isn't, Reb Nachman emphasizes the importance of having physical reminders that bring one back to their spiritual focus and their spiritual goals. Techelet, as part of the tzitzit, is a tangible representation of this concept, providing a daily visual cue to reflect on one's techelet, one's ultimate purpose. The tzitzit themselves, if you look at it, it begins with knots, 5 of them, corresponding with the 5 books of the Torah or the 5 books of Moses. And then the orderly knots are followed by loose ends, loose fringes. What does this symbolize? It means that we have still yet to tie the loose ends here in creation. In the Torah, we learn that God created our world incomplete, to give man a role, to help repair the world by tying loose ends. In that way, we have work to do, and we are partnering with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, to fulfill that role. But guys, remember, you have to understand Korach's challenge, his questions, only a total narcissist would even ask those kind of questions to begin with. And if you remember, what is a spiritual narcissist? Their narcissism is found in their belief of having already arrived spiritually. Like Korach, this claim is more about self-admiration and less about genuine enlightenment. Spiritual narcissists see themselves as beyond the need for further effort, further improvement, Torah study, or even the performance of mitzvot. They use their perceived spiritual status as an excuse to bypass responsibility or to bypass dealing with real life issues that demand attention. Only a complete idiot like Korach would ask whether wearing an entire garment of techelet would exempt one from tzitzit. So let's get back, let's wrap this up with the following idea. We have 2 people. We have Korach, we have Moshe. Moshe's name, we know from the Torah, was received when the Pharaoh's daughter Batya brought him from the river. Moshe is associated with river, which is a fluid and liquid state of water. Korach, interestingly enough, do you know what his name in English means? Korach in Hebrew is related to Kerach, the same letters. What is Kerach? It means ice. Ice is cold and it's solid. It's the opposite of being fluid. Okay? It's solid, it keeps its position, it doesn't adapt, it doesn't move, it doesn't adjust, it doesn't grow. It's solid, and because there's no growth and no movement, it stays the way it is. Does that sound familiar? Going back to the seed and tree analogy. The seed has a shell around it. It doesn't want to grow beyond its walls. It has already defined itself. It is already holy. There is no need for surrendering and growing and transforming, like water, like the essence of life, like what inevitably becomes a tree that keeps branching out. Korach is the state of spiritual resistance, and that's Korach. And Moshe is that which adapts, grows, adjusts, and eventually transforms. Now that we know this, we know what the end of the story for Korach is. It's most suitable that the earth shall split open and it will swallow Korach and his gangsters, his rebels. They'll all be swallowed together by this crack in the earth. And why does the Torah use that imagery? Because there wouldn't be a better place for a seed to go. You start a seed, you hold on your whole life to being a seed with hard shells. You don't take any growth seriously unless it is forced. Well, now we're going to do just that. You're going to be planted in the ground, and God willing, your environment will give you no choice but to break down, break through, and grow and become a beautiful being that you deserve to be. We're not here in the world to be Korachs. And the deeper sin of Korach that we had not mentioned and we'll mention right now, and we're going to end with this, is that inside he envied someone else's role. What was his whole rebellion about really at the base of it? Is that he wanted to be Moses. And he wanted to be Moses' brother Aaron. He wanted to be the high priest and the lawgiver. And so you know what the greatest sin in the world is? Is when you're not living at your own soul address. You're too busy trying to be someone else's role and to be something that you're not. You could spend all the length of your days coveting what your neighbor has, their status, their belongings, and that's what Korach was doing to Moses and Aaron. You know why that's one of the worst ways you could live your life? Is because you're not living your life as yourself, like yourself. And that's eventually what likeness means. That's ultimately what likeness means. The likeness of God is the likeness by which God created you specifically with your blueprint on who you are specifically, not who someone else is. When you start living like you, okay, and in liking yourself, and you're at home cozy with whatever way and person God created you to be, that's when you're going to mirror more the likeness by which you need to become. Don't spend your time living at someone else's address, because then God can't reach you. And if God can't reach you, God can't teach you. And this is the end of the lesson today. God bless, shalom and blessings, and I'll see you next time. Peace.